Hello everybody, this is Chris with 4W Leatherworks, and I'm going to talk about putting a welt inside of a leather sheath. Again, this is the way I do it. Some people may do it a little differently, but I basically take a piece of leather and cut it to where it's just outside of each of the stitch lines here. And I draw my lines and make my stitch where I got stitch lines here and down at the bottom on each places. I already cut this before I thought we should do the video. So basically the leather looks like this. I draw my stitch lines on it. Then I take my knife, lay my knife in there where I want it to sit, and just take an ink pen and draw where I want to cut out for the knife to be placed at. At that point, cut where the knife is going to go. This is where the stitch lines come in that I have marked. At this point, this will be glued on the inside of this. And then when we put the back on top of this, this will be in the center, and that will help as the blade goes in. It will not hit my stitch lines, it will hit this first. So it won't cut your sheath back open. So once you have that cut and you have it all traced out the way you want it, I glue it in here, and then when we stitch once I glue the back on, then we will stitch it all together, and should have no movement in it. So just a little bit of that. That's just Leathercraft cement. Works good for this. So like I said, these stitch lines, then you can just take your sheath, put back on top of it, line up your lines, line up that line, move this in here where it lines up on that. And roll it on. Once you have that glued on, you can take your scissors, cut around the edges where it's nice, or your X-Acto knife, whatever you want to cut it with. One other thing I want to point out with this is you can do this before you stain it, but if your roller gets any of this glue, this excess glue on it, and rolls onto your leather before you stain, you're going to have there'll be a spot on there that won't take stain because the glue's on there. So then you'll have to do other steps to try to get it to take your stain. At this point, I just take my scissors and trim it up decent. Once you do your edges, you can get it better. Same thing when you're cutting this around with your scissors or your X-Acto knife, either way. You want to keep it straight up and down so you're not cutting at an angle. You don't want this to be at an angle and then your other piece to be straight, and you're going to have that in there, and you're going to have to do much more sanding to try to get that done. So there it is. Here it is on the inside, just like that. So when the knife will slide in, it will be right here, and then your back will go on top of that. And like I said, that will keep mainly the point is the biggest thing as it comes in. Your stitch line will be down along here. It gives it a stopping point. So a lot of people, when they want to put their knives in, they want to make sure they're all the way down, and they push it a little hard, and sometimes it will cut through, and it will cut your stitchings loose. So this is just a extra barrier of protection to protect what you've made, and your customers won't have any problems. There you have it. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. Like and subscribe, and everybody likes the videos, I'll continue to make them and maybe help somebody else that just getting started or learning, or something new that they're doing with leather that they haven't done before. See you.